What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Bar Restaurant Success Podcast. And today we got episode 22, How to Increase Your Bar Restaurant Profits by $67,875 per year with Dave Allred from Bar Patrol. Dave, did I say that right?
Yeah, all red. It's just a compound word. You put the two together. All red. Most people call me Alfred for some reason. They put an F in there, but you were close enough.
Awesome. How you doing today, bud?
I'm doing good, thanks.
Good. Now this is an awesome topic to increase your profits by 67,000 $70,000 a year. That's huge. Before we get into that and tell everybody exactly how to make that possible, why don't you kind of just give us a little bit of your background, quick 60 seconds, 120-second overview of why we should be listening to you on this topic and how you can save bar and restaurant owners this kind of money.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, like you, I've been in the industry forever, so I'm kind of born into it. And once you get stuck in it, you're kind of stuck in it. And we're guys that don't really like to work in an office, right? So we don't like to sit down and be in cubicles. So this is what we do. So, I'm kind of like a lot of people. I've served, I've been a busser, I've been a bar back, bartended for years in San Francisco. And then I became a bar manager. And after a while, it became a point where my wife was like, what else are you going to do? Because she was a school teacher. I never saw her. I would leave for work right when she got home, and this started to get tense. So, this took over a period of time of me trying different businesses and different stuff. And my wife found, Bev & Co. and Sculpture Hospitality, who do these, full-time audits for bars. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to try to do that. And I was at the end of my rope then. And so I went out and started practicing with some software. And pretty soon I had about 10 or 12 clients, and I was going in and taking full inventory, whether it took an hour or 3 hours, whatever, once a week. And I was saving them a ton of money. And then in 2012, I decided I'm going to create my own software, and I started selling it locally to businesses around here. And then just recently, last year and a half or so, we've gone national, and we're in 37 states, I think 7 or 8 countries, and we've made it the most affordable app that does what it does on the market. So that's where we're at now.
Awesome. So what I want to do is I want to come to you as, I'm a bar owner right now. I'm struggling. I want to spend more time away from my business, but I just don't trust some of my employees for whatever reason that is. Or maybe I do trust them, but I just want to feel better. I want to sleep better at night knowing that I can wake up the next day or know each week whether if I'm being robbed blind or not. I've had issues before in the past, and I've also worked with a lot of clients where I've heard just some horror stories where when they did start actually bringing in a service like Bev & Tell or doing whatever and tracking their inventory, where it was a very, very scary and crazy situation. So here I am. I'm coming to you right now. I need your help. How can you help me, the bar owner, the restaurant owner, make sure that I'm not being robbed blind?
Sure. You would be my perfect gold standard client, because when I started Bar Patrol in 2010, and then eventually the app in 2012, I was so excited to bring it out there. I thought, man, this is going to save them money. They're going to love it. And you wouldn't believe how stubborn a lot of them can be. You go out there. I remember at the very beginning, I went to San Francisco to this Greek restaurant that was doing, $5 million a year. And I told the manager and what I did. She says, that sounds great, but I just couldn't do it here. My bartenders wouldn't like it. And I'm like, well, of course they wouldn't like it if you monitored what they were stealing from you. Of course they wouldn't like that. So you wouldn't believe how many I run into. So, guys like you that come to me, it's great to work with them because they get excited about it. And once they see the app and software, they go nuts over it. And, what it's going to do is, inventory sucks. Everyone knows inventory sucks, but you got to do it if you're going to run a successful business. And I always ask, are you a bar owner or are you a business owner? And there's a difference.
Yeah.
The bar owner is just running his playground. He's giving away shots. He's doing this and that. And I was just at a bar yesterday, and the guy's like, I haven't done a P&L in, 2 years or whatever. And I'm like, well, you're going down soon. So
I've been there. That's how I was my first 2 years in business.
Right?
I was a bar owner.
So you're a bar owner.
Yes.
And that's what it comes down to. But I get these people that are kind of fed up. And so we go in there, and I know inventory is a pain. So what I tell them is take full inventory once a week or once a month, whatever your process is. And then we spot check. So take 5 or 10 of your most popular products once a week. Find out how John's pouring on Tuesday night. You bring him the results. John, you ring in 10 shots of Grey Goose, but you poured 20. What the hell's going on? And it's a powerful psychological tool like you wouldn't believe. And when I used to do full audits for a couple of years, the average bar I went into, and I went in dozens of them, they were losing 27% of the products based
Wow.
on bartender negligence and overpours. We get them down to about 5 or 6%, and it works like magic. They did a study, I think it was at Newcastle University. Don't sue me, Newcastle, if I get this wrong, but they put posters of eyes up on the wall in the cafeteria, and they found out after sitting and watching them that people, just because they were up there, 70% more people cleaned up their trash on the tables because those eyes were on the wall. And
Wow.
they've done the same thing in office building. They put pictures of eyes, and the productivity goes up 40%. It's not even real people watching them. So the psychology that you go in there and they know they're being watched, it saves you thousands of dollars a month just from them knowing that. And that's what our tool does for them.
Awesome, awesome. Sounds good. And let me ask you this. What would you say? I mean, I know there's a lot of overpouring and maybe things not happening on purpose. I just witnessed it in one of my bars a couple weeks ago. I'm up there for football Sunday, and I bought a round of shots for, I think it was like 6 people. And it was, I forgot what it was, but there was 2 different liquors in it and some sweet and sour. Anyways, long story short, I saw her pour everything, and I could tell she overpoured. And so she did the shots, and when she was done pouring those 6, I says, I want you to take the rest of those, and I want you to pour the rest of them out. Well, there was another 4 there, and at $4 a shot, there's another $16.
Yeah.
So it's not that they try to rip you off and do it on purpose. It could just be, hey, lack of training on my manager for why she is pouring like that, or maybe obviously lack of training. There's no other excuse for that, because I'm sitting there watching her. It's not like she was going to go hand it out to anybody else, right?
Right. Right.
But what would be some ways that you've seen that bartenders are actually how are they stealing? What would you say are the top 3 ways bartenders are stealing behind the bar, and how do you catch them?
Yeah. And what I've learned is that 98% of bartenders are stealing, whether it's straight out stealing or just negligence.
Yeah.
And it's just so easy. And they're not bad people. They're just caught up in the industry. So it's conformity is contagious type thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, the senior bartender's doing it, the person down the street's doing it. When they go out, they're in the industry. So they probably know people in the industry. So they're going to get hooked up. I'm sure when you go to bars, everyone knows you. So it's like, oh, Nick's here. Let's give him a free shot. And it's like, what are you supposed to do as a patron? Say no.
Yeah.
So of course you're going to take it. But there's so many ways. I mean, cameras, people say, oh, I got cameras. That doesn't do anything. So, I mean, overpouring is obviously just a form of theft for regulars. People can give you can have $10 for 2 beers. 2 drop beers, $10. They give you 20. You turn around, you ring in one of the beers, and then you give them, you give change, but you keep the other 5. It looks like you're ringing everything in.
Yeah.
There's absolutely nothing you can do that. You can do that anytime you're ringing up any drinks. You pour 4 shots. You can go ring up 3 of them and just keep the money. And the cameras can't catch that. It's absolutely impossible. So the way to catch that is to take inventory, obviously, and then our system uploads the sales data from your POS. So like I said, you can see how many shots they ring in and exactly how many shots short they are, down to 100th of an ounce. And you can take it to them. And we break it down by every single brand. So you can really pinpoint what's going on for one particular bartender.
Okay, and I got a great question for you. It kind of stemmed from what you had just said. You walk into the bar, and when I do go to bars, people are like, hey, they buy me a drink, they buy me a shot. And I do the same thing for people. I tell my staff, when they see a brand new customer in the door, my manager, who he's never seen before, after they get their first round, depending on what they're drinking, go get them a shot, or go get them a drink. Because I want to do that, because I've had the experience when I was out of town at a seminar in Atlanta. This was like 7 years ago. This is right when I was, pretty young and still getting into the bars. I had never been to a bar. Well, let me back up. I'm sitting down. I have a drink. Bartender's like, hey, I got your next one. I had never personally ever been bought a drink before in my life, because I was always in my dad's bars or my own bar. But it stood out to me that the first day I'm there, it made me, where did I go? Each and every time I went back to that place because I felt appreciated. And that kind of stuck in my head a few years back, where I just made it a thing. Any new customer I see, I'm buying them something, because I know how I felt. And it brought me back, and I know that brings other people back. Some people are just shocked by that. They go somewhere for the first time, boom, they're getting something for free or whatever it is. It builds that relationship right away, right? So for the owners who understand that, get that, and do that, and I know a lot of owners who do, I've got a lot of clients who do, how would you track that, and what are the best systems for you? I know what I use, but what have you kind of seen for the owners who want their staff to give stuff away? Is it, hey, you ring it in the POS, but there's a comp button, they could check it that way, or there's a piece of paper that they're writing it on, or what are your thoughts on that?
No, that's a fantastic point. And I think John Taffer has a system that I actually use. It's like a 3-step marketing system,
Yeah.
because his whole stat on once you get person in 3 times, the odds of them coming back is like 70%.
Yes.
So you want to get them back. So that first time is very important. So, his step is literally, handing out an appetizer, giving it to them, going to come back. So it's the same philosophy that you're using. You're giving them a shot to get them to come back again. And if you can get them to come back 3 times, they're probably going to keep coming back and keep coming back. Taking care of regulars is really important. And I'll tell the owners that I work with, there's no problem with you taking care of your regulars. Just ring it into the POS system. Tell your bartenders, just ask me every time, hey, John, can I get so-and-so a shot? I guarantee, 90% of the time, he's going to say, go for it. Just ring it in, because he wants to know what's going on. If you give your bartenders free reign, it's, give them an inch, they'll take a mile every time. They will say the standard is do whatever you want. So it's about setting the standards. You need to ask me if you want to give him a shot. I'm most likely going to say yes.
Yeah.
Go ring it in. We'll make sure that guy comes back, but it's all accounted for. And when you ring it into the POS system, even when you comp it, our system tracks all that. So we know that it's all been tracked. Everything's been accounted for. Anything that shows up short was not rang into the POS system. So I think there's nothing wrong with making sure your regulars are taken care of. Just ring it in so you can see how much you're doing. And then you can look at it at the end of the month. We're giving away this much. Are we comfortable with that? Do we want to give away more or less? Now it's another metric that you can look at and make sure, that you're doing what you want to do.
Right, exactly. Now, here's the big question, right? The title of this episode is How to Increase Your Bar or Restaurant Profits by $67,875 a year. How did you arrive at that number? And how would you say, you or your app or, helps bars save that much money per year? That's a lot of money. I mean, that's a nice new car.
It is. And I think what it is over time. So over my first 2 years of taking full service audits for dozens of bars, I would keep all these numbers. And what I found is the average bar, and I worked with a lot of just like mid-sized bar. I also worked with P.F. Chang's, Outback Steakhouse. I worked with a lot of the biggies too. But the average bar is losing about $186 per day based on all of my numbers. So when you add that up over the year, it's $67,800, whatever you said. And, that money is just going out the door. And, places like 7-Eleven, their franchise company, the franchisees are responsible for all the inventory in there. So the franchise comes in at the end of the month, they count the inventory, whatever you're short, that guy has to pay for. So if bar owners had to do this, I guarantee they would be counting inventory a lot closer, but no one's coming in at the end of the month saying, you owe me $5,000 for all that your bartenders have reported. Right. Just let it go. They're just kind of like, they have a lot of stuff to do, so they're just kind of letting stuff fly out the window and not tracking stuff. But this, to me, is the number one reasons that bars are not, even if they don't fail, if they're mediocre, and that stems behind bad management. Bad management's the number one reason bars fail, but it's because they don't have, systems in place, which is a lot of what we do.
And when we first talked, you were talking a lot about, and I get this, but I'm sure there's a lot of people who don't get this. And I didn't understand this the first few years that I was in business, probably first 4 or 5 years I was in business till I really started getting down to the costs and knowing where money was coming in and going out.
Right.
But, your poor cost percentage and then your variance cost percentage, can you kind of go through and explain what those are, what those mean for anybody who might be listening or watching this that might not understand it or doesn't get it 100%?
Yeah, and 98% of bars are doing poor cost percentage. That's just the industry standard of what everyone's doing. And poor cost percentage is basically, you're taking your wholesale value of your products on hand and you're dividing it by your monthly sales. The problem with poor cost percentage is so many different things affect it. It's affected by price, but it's also affected by what you're pouring behind the bar. And I worked with one bar who was excited about their 19% liquor cost percentage, but they were pouring like 60 to 70% well liquor because they had a special on it. And well liquor pours at like 5%. So if you're pouring a ton of well liquor, we found out that they should have been at 14%. So once we figured out what was going on, we were able to lower it down. But if you're pouring a ton of Belvedere is pouring at 18, 19%. Don Julio 1942 is pouring at 25%. So if you're serving a bunch of that, or if you're a wine bar, you're pouring at 25, 30%. So you can't just go by poor cost percentage because it depends on what you're pouring that month. And during the colder months, a lot of times you're doing a lot of winter drinks, and those are more costly. So variance percentage is literally physically what's missing. So like I said, you rang in 10 shots, but you poured 20. That's 50% variance that you're missing right there. So you can go into the variance percentage and find out what's missing, not based on how much something costs. you can point to your bartenders and say, hey, you're this much short exactly. So pour cost percentage is a good overall financial indicator about what you're doing. It measures your gross profit margin, but variance is where it's at if you want to find out, how your bartenders are doing and what's missing in your bar.
Awesome, awesome. And one thing I want to cover here, and know more about for me personally, because when you and I first talked and we were going through everything, I was kind of just blown away with it. But the big objection that people are going to have is, okay, there's more work, right? In the last 3 years, I've had two different systems, free flow systems that, integrate with the POS, and you could tell exactly how much was poured. Everything just rang through there. Well, the system seemed to be the perfect pill for a bar or restaurant owner to go to bed at night, wake up and see these reports of what was rang in, what was poured, how much was poured, and everything. Unfortunately, both of those systems, and I'm not going to talk about the companies or who they are, because that doesn't matter, but it didn't work out for me, and it unfortunately it didn't. I wish it did, because it seemed like that would be the perfect solution. And what brought me to this was because I've heard of systems like yours, and I'm thinking, oh shit, there's more work. I don't want to do more work, right?
Right.
But in the end, I haven't been able to find a bulletproof system that is free cloud that makes it really simple. I'm sure someday in the future, might happen. But what would you say for the owners? Say for me, I don't want to do more work, right? What do I need to do to really systematize this and make this easy for the owner? Let's say someone's, they don't know that they're losing $3, $4, $5,000 a month. They don't know that they're losing. Let's say they don't know they're losing $1,000 a month, right?
Right.
What kind of systems could be put into place where the owner doesn't have to do this, and how do they use their app? I get my app from you. I don't want to do it. Coach me on how to make this work where someone else does the work in the process.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, if you're the owner, it's great to put this on your manager. And inventory is inventory. No matter what you do, you're going to have to count it. Our system, and there's a lot of systems out there that it's going to cut your inventory time in half if you're still doing it on a clipboard and paper and all that, and then you go re-enter all your data. This is going to go a lot faster. So the app's going to count through everything faster. Everything's going to sync immediately online, and then you can upload sales data and all that. So it's going to cut your inventory time in half based on old traditional systems. In the process, oh, sorry, I got something in my eye.
Not a problem.
Oh, sorry about that, Nick.
Oh, no problem.
Where was I? I got off track.
Cuts inventory and time if they're doing it with pen and paper. But if you got the app, you're going to go in. Someone does
Right.
an inventory. Like, let's say I'm a big guy on outsourcing and delegating stuff. There's no way in hell I'm going to do this shit because I got more important things to do. I try to focus on the $500 to $1,000 an hour job. I know I can go find someone either outside the business or my manager who does not work behind the bar anymore to come in at 15, 20 bucks an hour to do this for me. So that would be step one for me, to go find someone. Now I need to coach this person on what exactly I need them to do. How long will it take them to do this, and what do they need to do in order to get the results back to me?
Absolutely. So once you get everything set up, once you get all your products set up in Bar Patrol, the counting is going to go a lot quicker. And like I said, some people do it every day, some people once a week, some people once a month. You can stick to whatever system you're doing. Most people do it once a month. Other people do it once a week. There's not that many people I find that are doing it every single day. So take your inventory once a week or once a month, and then, like I said, you need to put in spot checks during the week. Find your 5 most popular products: Grey Goose, Jameson, Jack. Count those on a Tuesday before someone's shift. Count them again after the shift. It's going to take you 10 minutes, and then you can go to this person and say, "Hey, let's see how you did." I find a lot of the bartenders get excited. How did I do? It's not like they're like, "Oh, this asshole is monitoring me." Hey, how did I do today? They get excited by checking it out. So the system's going to do that. There's a lot of systems out there that do it, and I used to sell this locally when I first started, and I was charging 150 to 200 bucks a month because that's what the going rate was.
Mm-hmm.
And my system does the same as most systems out there, and it actually does more than some of the big systems out there. I'm not going to name the companies, but there's some out there that don't even upload the sales data, or they don't do certain things that my app does. My app does more than 90% of the systems out there. And what me and my business partner decided to do is go national, go worldwide, and lower it down to $59 a month and beat everyone on price. And because my main goal is to get it into the hands of as many people as possible. Because like I said, people are stubborn out there. And it's like, no, I don't want to pay 150 bucks a month. So now they have no excuse. And my goal is to just get it everywhere because everyone needs it.
Yeah.
And I can see after working in this business why businesses fail. 85% of businesses fail. It's not just our industry. I can see why it happens in other industries, and it's execution. And execution is the engine that drives the business. And even if I go in and tell people what to do, 4 out of 5 of them aren't going to do it. You see it on Bar Rescue, right? He gives them the formula, the name. They switch their name back.
Exactly.
It's like, I'm going to do it my way, and then they end up not going anywhere.
Right, and then then people blame Taffer that, oh, he doesn't know what he's doing, but it's really the owners go back to their old ways and they fuck it up again.
They do, and it's like set your standards, follow your standards, or you're not going to fail. So my system is the most affordable one out there that'll do as much as any other system out there, and I just want to get it everywhere because people need it, and they need to make their bar better, and lower that 85% failure rate, or at least mediocrity rate, and make more money. And there's one of the problems is you have these big clubs, and volume hides a multitude of sins,
Yeah.
right? So they're making 10 million, and they're netting $2 million a year, but they could be making another 500,000 because they're not paying attention to what's going on. So, and most places are mid-sized, but that extra 50, 60,000 a year is a big deal to them. So, get the system in place, execute. There's no excuse now. It's like $1.63 a day to use our system.
How much? $1.63?
$1.63 a day. It's like half the price of a Coke you charge for in your place.
Right, exactly, exactly. Well, Dave, the reason I wanted to bring you on was just because of our conversation that we had before when you went through and gave me the demo, and our plans to put it in both of our locations as well. And anytime I see something, it's just I've struggled with this, finding the right system to put it through. And when you showed me this, I'm always wanting to put out a product or service that I believe in. Otherwise, I'm not going to put it out there. If I don't personally use it or going to use it, I'm not going to put it out there, bring somebody on to talk about this. And I work with so many bar and restaurant owners year after year just on marketing and promotions. But they do come to me and say, hey, how do I control this? How do I control that? And that's where I started learning about these 2 other systems that I put into my business for the free flow, and I started doing some research and started hearing some things that worked for other people, and so I tried it and implemented it. Didn't really work for me, but this seems like you're doing it based on a scale, obviously, right? You put the bottle on the scale, and you bring
scale. People love it.
Yeah, and if you bring somebody else in to do this that's not pouring behind the bar, and you pay them $20 an hour, I mean, well worth it. Let's just say you're saving yourself $500 a month. To pay someone, let's say it's $40 or $100 a month to pay this person, there's an extra $400 a year, which I'm sure it's, a hell of a lot more than that for most bars and restaurants. But it just makes sense. But sometimes us cheap bar and restaurant owners don't want to give someone $20 an hour, $15 an hour for something because we're used to paying 3 to 5.
I'll tell you, when I started the full audit inventories, bars pay me $1,000, $1,200 a month to do this.
Yeah.
So, like you're right. And I think there are people that will do it for $100 or $200 a month. And, so you're getting 80% off what you'd pay me to do it.
Right.
I just have a good point there. I know you love paying people to do stuff, so you can do stuff yourself. I know that's a big
exactly. Time's money. But Dave, where could people go to get more information on Bar Patrol, on getting the app, and reaching out to you if they have more questions that maybe weren't answered on the call?
Sure, it's simple. It's just barpatrol.net. That's our website. Go there. You can hit the contact link there. That email will eventually get to me through my assistants, or you can email me directly, Dave at TheRealBarman.com. That's kind of my pseudonym name that I started a long time ago, and I'll get that directly. And if you have any questions, I'm kind of the head of my company, kind of like you are, Nick. We talked about this a couple weeks ago, where you're not just going to get a tech person when you deal with us. You're going to get someone that's been in the industry for years, and any questions people have, they come to us. They're going to get it from us. They're not getting it from some operator that we hired. So that's another big advantage of my company over some of the biggies that have hired 60 employees to answer calls. So
yeah, no, that's a big one, and I'm glad you brought that up, because there's not just in the bar restaurant industry, it's any industry where they have these big tech people come up with this software, and yeah, it does a solution, but now you're dealing with people who've never spent a day in the bar or restaurant business whatsoever. They don't know the feelings, the frustrations, the pains that you're actually going through, and I think that's what's so important for bar and restaurant owners to seek through when they're looking for marketing solutions, promotional solutions, inventory solutions. Deal with a company, scheduling solution, deal with a company who actually understands and has walked in their shoes to kind of know
Right.
what they're going through, because you're going to get much better results and better advice and guidance, going through with that. So, Dave, I appreciate it. Anybody who wants more information on this app, I mean, you can't go wrong. It's $60 a month for this. Pay someone $20, $15 an hour if you don't want to do the work. It's going to cost you 100, 120, 150 bucks a month. But if you're getting I don't want to say ripped off. If bartenders are overpouring on accident, just like I saw the other day personally for my own bartender, there was 4 shots overpoured at $16 just that one time. $16 right there. That's 25% of what your what your app cost is from one pour right there is the way I'm starting to look at it, and it makes sense. So if anybody's interested in taking a look at that, take a look at Dave's system, barpatrol.net. And
Yep.
thanks again. We'll see you on the next call.